Center for Students who can support you with your exchange. And we have several of them joining us here today to provide you with very important information to get you started. And once you arrive at UVic, we are located in the Jamie Castle Center in room B202D, and our office hours are Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. daily. And I'll
Hi. I think I lost Kieran for a second. Hello? Kieran, can you hear me?
Yes, I was going to say I'm just passing it off to Amy now.
Excellent. Thank you. Hello, good morning. My name is Amy Chen. I'm one of the international student advisor with the International Student Advising Team. So here, like Kieran said, we have a couple teams within International Center for Students. Myself and Sarah Mosher-Mendel, who will be moderating the session for us today, belong to International Student Advising Team. So International Student Advising provides support on your Canadian immigration documents and also on your health insurance and any information that you need for settlement purposes. We also have a self-isolation team that was created in response of the COVID travel requirements. They can support you and provide resources to travel to Canada, or for some of you who need to complete the mandatory 14-day self-isolation, they can also provide additional assistance with it. Kieran just introduced the exchange team. So if you have any questions, your first point of contact would be your exchange advisors. Now, the last team we have is Global Community Team. They typically provide support on any social events and they plan for our international student welcome orientations. They also have mentorship and conversation partners programs for you to participate. For more event info, you can tune into our Global Community Facebook group or their Global Community bi-weekly newsletter. So this is today's agenda. If you have general questions, feel free to keep sending them to Sarah Mosher-Mendel, our host, in the chat. Sarah will collect questions for us to address at the end. Again, we are hoping to give you some information first and then address your questions in the end. So please pay attention to the information we'll be sharing, and if possible, keep your questions and only send them towards the end of the presentation. Or if you feel like you have burning questions, you can just keep sending them to Sarah. Before we get started, a couple disclaimers I need to make. This session is for general information only, and the information shared in the session may be subject to change without notice. For the most up-to-date information, you must always refer to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada's website and the Government of Canada's COVID-19 Travel Testing and Borders website. For off-campus housing resources mentioned during the session, they are not verified by UVic for legitimacy or quality. UVic is not responsible for the resources you use to find housing. So, to access the services and support from International Student Advising Team, there are different ways. First of all, our team has a website section on the office main website. It's called Living in Canada. If you have any questions, I encourage you to start with navigating the information on the pages. If you don't find any answers, you can contact us anytime. You can contact Exchange Team anytime, and if needed, they will forward your questions to us. We also, in response to COVID-19, we also have a COVID-19 specific information webpage for our international students. Again, that section can be found on our office website. Feel free to visit the website whenever you need to. Our team also hosts information sessions and workshops and publish articles in the bi-weekly global community newsletter under the In the Know Advice for International Students section to share timely reminders and immigration updates or tips pertaining to your non-academic international life in Canada. If you want to receive our global community newsletter, you can visit our global community program website to sign up. And a quick note, later today, our exchange team will send a copy of the presentation slides. So when you get the slides, you will have access to all the links on the slide. Now, lastly, whenever you have questions, you should contact your exchange advisor at goglobal@uvic.ca. Again, depending on your inquiries, if needed, they will pass your inquiries on to our team for a response. Our team provides immigration and settlement advising via email, phone, and pre-booked appointments. One final note, when you are on campus or whenever you need to have an immigration consultation, you are welcome to use our immigration drop-in hours on most weekdays between 2 and 4 p.m. Pacific time. Again, this is for answering quick immigration questions. If you feel your case is complicated, feel free to send an email. Now, immigration and travel documents for you. If you're not a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you must have a study permit or meet the study permit exemption to study in Canada without a study permit. Due to COVID, there are also additional requirements that you must meet in order to enter Canada. I'd like to discuss study permit requirements and travel documents you must prepare to bring with you for your arrival to Canada. Now, Sarah, if you don't mind, can you start the polling questions for us? I'd like to get some information from you, if you don't mind. Excellent. Hope you can see the two questions. First one, have you applied for a study permit? And the second one is for those of you who have applied for a study permit. If you have applied for a study permit, have you received an approval? Great. Sorry, I just want to double check on my slide sharing. Can you still see my screen? Kieran or Maddie, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll now. Okay. Great, thank you. All right. Now, some of you have received the study permit approval. Some of you have submitted your study permit but still waiting for the result. Here are some information for you to consider. For the study permit requirement, if you qualify as a fully vaccinated traveler, you may now enter Canada to study for 6 months or less with a valid entry document, meaning visitor visa or electronic travel authorization, ETA. However, there are advantages to getting a study permit for study for 6 months or less, including facilitating re-entry to Canada if you travel outside of Canada during your studies. If you don't qualify as a fully vaccinated traveler, you must meet all the following requirements to come to Canada to study for 6 months or less. One, you must have a valid study permit or have been approved for a study permit and receive a letter of introduction from Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship, and Canada. And second, you have a valid travel document if required, meaning ETA or temporary resident visa. Some people also call the temporary resident visa a visitor visa. Last one, you will need to attend a designated learning institution that has a COVID-19 readiness plan that has been approved by its province or territory. UVic has a COVID response plan that's been approved by the BC provincial government. I see a person with a hand up. If you have any questions, please send your questions to Sarah in the chat. She will be collecting questions for us to address in the end of the session. Now, if you have any questions or concerns about Canadian immigration documents, you should contact your exchange team to raise the question. If needed, they will forward your question to our team for an answer. So that's the study permit requirement. As far as the entry document, now most of you will require either an electronic travel authorization, ETA, or temporary resident visa, TRV. The only foreign nationals that are exempted from having an entry document is U.S. citizen. If you are not sure whether you need an entry document, when you get a copy of the slide, you should click on the entry document hyperlink on the slide to see whether you are required to get an entry document, either ETA or TRV. Now, in terms of study permit, what is it? It is a status document. If you have one, it is a status document that expires and it allows you to stay in Canada and engage in a program of study. If you meet certain conditions, it may also allow you to work while you study with us at UVic. So you, with a study permit and meeting all the conditions set up by IRCC, you may be allowed to work on campus part-time or off campus, on campus full-time or off campus part-time, the other way around. Whenever you get a copy of the slide, if you have a study permit and you are interested in having this opportunity to work in Canada while you study, be sure to check on the conditions on IRCC website. So now, one of the conditions to work with a study permit is you must maintain full-time status with the designated learning institution that you study with. So at UVic, we go by certain definitions for full-time. Those may not be the same as the ones you follow in your home institution. So be sure to understand your full-time definition if you are hoping to work with the study permit. For example, if you are an undergraduate student, then generally speaking, your full-time definition at UVic would be by taking 6 units or more courses in one term to qualify. So 6 units on average at UVic would transfer into maybe 4 courses. Sometimes one course may contain more units, then in that case, you go by the unit definition. So again, we only have the full-time definition based on units, not based on number of courses. For graduate students, for example, to maintain your full-time status, you must be taking 3 units or more in one term. Again, I put the 2 links for the UVic calendar. Whenever you get a copy, be sure to check on our full-time definition. So very important to say that one more time because this full-time definition has been very confusing to a lot of students. If you are studying with your home institution or you are having a scholarship that requires you to maintain full-time definition, those definitions may be different from our definition. So last thing I would like to speak about is some travel documents that you must carry with you in terms of arriving to Canada. So for those of you who have applied for a study permit or who has been approved for a study permit, you must have a copy of study permit or a letter of introduction for the study permit approval issued by IRCC. So you must bring a copy of it. Now, the next one is the medical exam. If you are required to perform a medical exam for your study permit or for your entry document purposes, then you also need to bring a copy of the medical exam confirmation. Next one is a letter from UVic. It's called a letter of acceptance, and in UVic, we call it a study permit information letter. Typically speaking, by the time you arrive, your study permit information letter from UVic should still be valid, but if it expires by the time you arrive, you should contact your exchange team for an updated letter. Another document that we ask our students to bring is the verification of enrollment. This letter is a self-generated letter. You can print it out through UVic online tools under the online request forms whenever you are registered in the spring term courses. So if you haven't registered for spring term, you should contact your exchange advisors for a consultation. If you have, you can go to your online tools and see if you get a copy of the verification of enrollment for the spring term. Now, your entry document, if you are from countries requiring a TRV or an ETA, you must also make sure that your document is valid for entry. Again, of course, a valid passport. Another document I want to mention is the proof of funds. So in order to study in Canada, you must meet certain conditions. So even if you don't need a study permit, you still need to prove that you will have enough money to study in Canada. As an exchange student at UVic, your tuition is waived. But you still need to show that you have enough money for your living expenses. So living expenses include housing, food, medical, and other personal expenses. Depending on your style of living, your living costs in Canada may vary. The minimum funding for living set by IRCC is 10,000 Canadian dollars per year. This is for a typical study permit application. But the actual cost of living in Canada may be different from the funding requirement set by IRCC. For example, if you live by yourself off campus in Victoria, a more realistic cost of living would be between 1,200 to 1,500 Canadian dollars per month. If you have accompanying family members with you, then your cost of living should be higher than that. Now, another quick note, even though your tuition fees are waived at UVic, you must prepare to pay for the mandatory temporary medical insurance. Our frontline advisor, Maya, will be discussing this later. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Paula, our self-isolation program coordinator, for her to share COVID vaccination and quarantine information with you.
Thanks, Amy. That's great. Do you want to move on to the next slide? So, hi, everybody. It's nice to be with you. I'm going to talk about the requirements to enter Canada from the perspective of quarantining and the COVID vaccine. So, Amy, if you want to move on to the next slide. So in Canada, we have 4 approved vaccines: Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, also known as COVID Shield, which are all 2 doses, and the Johnson & Johnson, which is just 1 dose. So I'm going to talk about the requirements for you coming in, for travelers coming into Canada, what is required if you're fully vaccinated with one of these 4 vaccines, which are Health Canada approved. I'm not going to talk about the requirements for people coming into Canada who are not fully vaccinated with one of these vaccines. but I'm happy to provide that information to you either by email, or we can have a telephone conversation or a Zoom call. Just email me at the address you see there at the bottom of the screen, UVic@uvic.ca. So go ahead, Amy, next slide, please. So for vaccinated students arriving by air, and this means that you have to have been vaccinated 14 days before you travel to Canada, you need a couple of things. First is to provide proof of a negative COVID-19 molecular test taken within 72 hours of your departure time of your flight to Canada. So even though you are fully vaccinated with a Health Canada approved vaccine, you still need the negative COVID-19 test to enter the country. And if you're on a connecting flight, it's not a direct flight to Canada, you're going to have that test within 72 hours of the scheduled departure time of your last flight to arrive in Canada. You also need to enter proof of being fully vaccinated with a Health Canada approved vaccine into ArriveCan, which is an app for your telephone. We'll go over that in a few minutes. And be prepared to present a digital or a paper verification on arrival. Excuse me. So the document that you provide for your proof of vaccine must be either in English or French, and it must be a certified translation. And it must be stamped with by a certified translator. That information is on the IRCC website, and it is also on the UVic self-isolation program website. So you can find the information there, or contact me and I can send it to you. So you have to enter this information into ArriveCan, as well as a suitable 14-day quarantine plan. So what that really means is that when you arrive into Canada, Canadian Border Services makes the final decision about whether or not you're going to need to quarantine. Now, we haven't had any students who have had to quarantine who are fully vaccinated, but it is the final decision when you arrive of the agent. So you have to have a plan just in case you're required to quarantine. You don't need to make any kind of a reservation. You just need to have identified a location, a hotel or a motel or an Airbnb where you could quarantine if you were required to. So you just need to add that address and that information to your ArriveCan information. You also have to provide this information to us at UVic. It's the UVic study location registration form, and that's on accordion. When you log in there, you can just enter the information there. In addition, you have to notify the UVic self-isolation program that you arrived safely and confirm that you're not required to self-isolate. So when you arrive, because you will have filled out the UVic study location registration form, which indicates your arrival date, someone from the self-isolation program team will send you a welcome email and just say, welcome to Canada, and could you please confirm that you have arrived safely and that you're not required to self-isolate. And you can just write back to us and let us know. Okay, Amy, next slide, please. For students who are fully vaccinated arriving by land, it's very similar to arriving by air. You have to provide a negative COVID-19 molecular test result taken in the US within 72 hours of your entry into Canada. You have to enter proof of vaccination with a Health Canada approved vaccine into ArriveCan, and also be prepared to present that digital or paper copy verification on arrival. You have to enter the suitable quarantine plan for 14 days into ArriveCan and fill out the UVic study location registration form with all of your information. And I just want to say it again, the 14-day suitable quarantine plan is not a reservation. It's just an identification of a place that you could go to quarantine if you were required to. And finally, we will send you an email asking if you've arrived safely on the date that you indicated in your form that you were going to arrive, and just to confirm with us that you were not required to self-isolate. The university is part of what's called a designated learning institution. And so we are responsible to assist our students in entering Canada if they're coming from abroad and ensuring that they've arrived safely. It's part of the requirements from the federal government to ensure that students are safe, international students are safe coming into the country. Next slide, Amy. So just to reiterate, you're responsible to register your arrival plans with the Government of Canada using the ArriveCan app and with the University of Victoria by completing the study location registration form. Next slide, Amy. So ArriveCan, you upload your proof of vaccination, your travel and contact information, your 14-day quarantine plan, and there's also a symptom self-assessment for COVID-19 there as well. Once you submit that information, a receipt will be displayed. Make sure that you keep a copy of that on your telephone. Be prepared to show the receipt to the Canada Border Services agent. And once again, remember to bring a paper or digital copy of the vaccination verification with you. Next slide, Amy. And I mentioned that you have to check in with the UVic self-isolation program upon arrival. Next slide, Amy. Now, I just want to talk about what you can expect when you're in British Columbia. So in BC and across the country, we have something that are called vaccine cards. This is required for entry to certain places, and it's not required for entry to other places. So in British Columbia, you must be fully vaccinated in order to gain entry to restaurants, pubs, gyms, student housing on campus, and large indoor events. You must show your vaccine card and a piece of valid government photo identification to enter these places. So as international students, you will show the BC vaccine card, and your passport is an acceptable piece of photo ID. You are not required to have a vaccine card to go into, to be on campus, to go into classes or the labs or grocery stores, fast food outlets, cafeterias, hotels, banks, healthcare services, and other items. Next slide, Amy, please. In addition, you need a Canadian COVID-19 proof of vaccination. So you may have read in the news that travel within and from Canada as of November 30th, everyone 12 years and 4 months must be fully vaccinated with a Health Canada approved vaccine to board an airplane or a train in Canada. So it's not a problem for you to enter Canada, but you must be fully vaccinated in order to leave if you plan to leave by plane or train after November 30th. So that's why you must get both the BC vaccine card as well as the Canadian COVID-19 proof of vaccination. So Amy, next slide, and I can explain how to do that. So getting the cards is actually very easy. You have to get your BC vaccine card and your Canadian COVID-19 proof of vaccination card with a personal health number. In order to get that, you call the number on your screen, 1-604-681-4261, and you request the personal health number. This is not, this in no way or shape or form gives you any kind of healthcare coverage. It is simply to get the 2 cards that you need to be here in Canada and to leave Canada. So don't worry about writing this down. Kieran and Maddie will send you this information when they send the recording out tomorrow. So after you go on and get your personal health number, which you can only do by telephone, then you submit your COVID-19 immunization record. You wait for about 10 to 14 days for processing. You will not be notified when it's processed, so you'll have to go back into the site And then you register for your BC vaccine card and your Canadian COVID-19 proof of vaccination at the same time. They're QR code screenshots that you can keep on your telephone. You're welcome to print a copy as well. Most of us in Canada just have them on our telephones. And when we go anywhere that we need them, we just pull them up and then they're scanned. The restaurants or wherever you're going has a scanner and they can use it. So my suggestion, my strong recommendation is that you start that process before you arrive in BC. And if you don't have time to do it, that's okay too. You can do it when you arrive, but just keep in mind that you will have to wait 10 to 14 days for processing. And next slide, Amy. And I just want to reiterate what Amy said earlier, that as the pandemic evolves, the government of Canada is changing the requirements for entry to Canada with regard to vaccines and self-isolation. So please just keep abreast of the information on the IRCC websites to ensure that things haven't changed. And by all means, please reach out to the UVic self-isolation program and we can answer any questions that you might have. We're happy to meet with you on Zoom or by telephone or through email, whatever works for you. We're here to support you. So please don't hesitate with any questions that you might have. And that's it for me. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Paula. So I think next Maya will be talking about health insurance overview with you.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I'm Maya Stratton. I'm one of the frontline advisors. I'm kind of the first point of contact. So when you're contacting ICS info, I'm often the person on the other side of that. Today, though, I'll be speaking to you about health insurance. So what is comprehensive health insurance and what does it include? In Canada, there are two levels of health insurance, primary and extended. Our office supports students with any questions about primary health insurance. But extended health insurance and dental plans are managed by the undergraduate and graduate student societies. Primary health insurance covers the cost of required medical services. These services are provided by doctors, specialists, facilities, and hospitals. There are two different primary health insurance plans for international students: mandatory temporary medical insurance, also known as GARDME, and BC MSP, BC Medical Services Plan, also known as BC MSP, which is the provincial government's health insurance plan for people living in BC for longer than 6 months. Since most of you are not planning to stay in Victoria for 6 months, we won't go into details about BCMSP today. But if you do plan on staying longer than 4 months, we do recommend that you contact our office and start looking into further health insurance. For most of you, GARDME medical insurance is the only primary health insurance you have, or you will have. Extended health insurance covers a portion of the cost of medical services that are not already covered by primary health insurance. This includes vision care, dental care, travel benefits, prescription drugs, and services provided by chiropractors, psychologists. Since you're exchange students, you will not automatically be enrolled in the extended health or dental plan either. If you'd like to enroll in one of these plans, you should follow up with the University of Victoria Student Society if you're an undergraduate student, or a graduate student society if you're a graduate student. Next slide, please. So I will now give you a bit more information about your GARDME health insurance. You will be automatically enrolled in GARDME upon registration of credited classes. This plan is intended to cover the cost of required and emergency medical services during your time in BC. It is mandatory and automatic enrollment is the plan only lasts throughout your first term of courses. You will receive an email with your policy information from GuardMe about 2 weeks before classes start. Please check your spam or junk email just in case the email has gone there, or contact our office if you did not receive the email. You will also notice the fee of 265 MTMI charged to your UVic student account. Since you're exchange students, this will likely be the only charge you'll see on your account. You will be required to pay the GuardMe fee as a tuition payment before January 31st, 2022. This policy start date on your ID card will be January 1st. However, your coverage will be effective from December 18th to April 30th. If you are planning to travel to Canada earlier than December 18th, please contact our office to discuss options. It is important to note that pre-existing medical conditions are not covered by GuardMe plan. If you do have a pre-existing condition that requires medication, we recommend planning to bring a 90-day supply of medication. Please check Government of Canada border allowances before traveling with medication for the most up-to-date information. As mentioned previously, you will receive an email with your policy number and documents from GuardMe about 2 weeks before classes start. The email from GuardMe should have a link to set up your account, username, and password. Once you've created an account, you can download your GuardMe card as well as GuardMe Health Access card for prescription drugs and emergency dental procedures in the policy document section on the left-hand side there. On the GuardMe UVic website, you'll find information about your coverage. You can access mobile doctor, submit a claim, and access services on the website. So it's a good idea to kind of familiarize yourself with the website because there are a lot of services provided. Next screen. So I will now move back to some important information about extended health and dental insurance. Extended health and dental covers a portion of the cost of medical services that are not already covered by GuardMe. This includes vision care, dental care, travel benefits, prescription drugs, and services provided by chiropractors and psychologists. Exchange students are not automatically enrolled in either the UVSS Health and Dental Plan or the GSS Health and Dental Plan. The University of Victoria Student Society administers the Extended and Health and Dental Plan for undergraduate students. The window for undergraduate students to opt into this plan is December 22nd to January 22nd. Visit the UVSS website for information about those benefits. The Graduate Student Society provides extended health and dental for graduate students. The window for graduate students to opt in is between January 1st to January 30th. So make sure you visit the GSS website for information about those benefits. Both student societies will also be your points of contact for the bus pass and accessing the athletics on campus. At the University of Victoria, the bus pass and athletics fee are bundled together, which means you can't separate them and pay one of them. With the athletics fee, you will have access to the McKinnon gym and pool, as well as be able to register for events and classes at CARSA. In total, the fee is a great deal when you consider that the regular bus pass is $85 a month if you were not getting the UVic student deal. Okay, next slide, please, Amy. Okay, thanks. Now that you've learned about the different types of health insurance, I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss how you can access health services in Victoria. First, you have access to a mobile doctor while you're covered by GuardMe. This service allows you to connect with Canadian doctors through your phone or computer anytime. You will need to sign up by following the steps at the site listed here, and will be able to connect to a doctor without needing to leave your home. You will need your GuardMe policy ID and to give your birth date to register for the service. Next, everyone in BC has the option to option for calling 811, a free of charge provincial health information and advice phone line. This service is also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Walk-in clinics may also be an option for you. However, we recommend you look into this online before traveling to a clinic, as many of them require pre-booked appointments. You can find a clinic near you by searching on Google or by using a helpful app called Medimaps. Medimaps allows you to enter your postal code or a city, choose the service you need, and then it'll give you a list of options near you. You may be able to use the site to book an appointment or join a wait list for a nearby clinic. In addition, GuardMe has a clinic search function for your area if you enter your postal code, which will provide you with information needed to find the clinic near you. The UVic Student Wellness Center is a great resource for both physical health and counseling services. Students are asked to book an appointment online or by phone, but in-person appointments are also possible at this time if it's arranged. Lastly, we want to stress that if you're experiencing an emergency, please call 911 right away. Ambulances are typically able to arrive within minutes of a call being placed and will bring you to a hospital for urgent care. I also wanted to mention Support Connect as a resource option for mental health support. It is free and confidential mental health support for UVic students, and it allows you to connect with a variety of mental health professionals. The service is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where you can meet with a professional through phone, video, or in-person meetings. You can visit their website for more information. Additionally, GuardMe has Keep Me Safe option, which is also mental health support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You would have to download the app for more information on that. So as mentioned before, the Student Wellness Center is also a great resource for counselors on campus for all UVic students. So that finishes for the health insurance piece. I will pass it off to Amy, who will be talking to you about some housing.
Hello there, my name is Amy, and I support students with their housing questions and settlement concerns when arriving in Victoria. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you, and we're excited to have you come and stay with us in the coming session at the university. So today I'm going to speak to you about off-campus housing. Some of you also may have questions about on-campus housing, and that's not something I am going to talk about today, just because we need to be aware that there is a long waiting list for on-campus housing. And so if you are interested, you can still apply for on-campus housing. However, I think it's important for you to look at other options, such as off-campus housing. Next slide, please, Amy. So when you first arrive in Victoria, you may need to stay in short-term accommodation while you look for a more permanent place to live. So some of these options may include a hotel, and they're on our website. There is a list of hotels and Airbnbs and some links to hostels as well. So this is just some information to show you the price you might be looking at for a hotel in Victoria. So a hotel could cost you anywhere from $85 to $149, $150 a night. An Airbnb, which is often a place that has a suite with a kitchen and a bathroom, a private bathroom, could be anywhere from $45 a night to $240 a night. And again, these prices do not include food, so you might have to consider adding a daily rate for your food as well if you need to stay in a hotel or a hostel prior to your arrival. A hostel is a cheaper option, and you can minimum cost is about $20 a night, $29 a night, and there are a few options around Victoria. Again, these options are listed on our website. So many students look for off-campus housing using these three resources. So Places for Students is a company that UVic has partnered with that potential landlords post listings for their accommodation on this site, and students, UVic students, can log on and see housing around the area of UVic and see pictures and things like that of the possible accommodations. Also, this is a wonderful place for you to post a little bit of information about yourself as well. So if you are looking for off-campus housing, there is a section on this website that you can add kind of a biography about yourself, so potential landlords can read about you prior to your application, and they might even just connect with you prior to them posting their listing. So this is a great resource for you to look for short-term accommodation for somebody who might be subleasing their accommodation, or for somebody who is also looking for a roommate. There are roommate finder section on that website as well, and also a place for you to see listings in Victoria. All three of these sites change all the time, and it's almost like a part-time job that you'll have to have at staying on top of these listings and applying as soon as you see them. Housing in Victoria is a very challenging situation at this point. There's lots of people looking and not a lot of accommodation. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when planning your travel. So another place, which is on Facebook, is the UVic off-campus Facebook group. And again, this is a wonderful place for you to kind of follow and pay attention to people that might be looking for a roommate, or actually somebody listing a house that might be for sale or for rent, sorry. And also Used Victoria as well is another great resource for people to use to look for off-campus housing. And again, like Amy Chen said at the beginning of this presentation, none of these resources are verified by UVic. It is just something that is very common that students use. So again, like we said, be aware that off-campus accommodation options are not verified by UVic for legitimacy or quality. And also really pay attention that there can be fake rental ads posted on Facebook and Used Victoria and other similar sites. So we'll talk a little bit about that moving forward. So a scam is when somebody's trying to trick you to get them to get you to send them money prior to actually seeing a place, or maybe the place is not legitimate. So things to keep in mind is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So maybe you might see a listing of a nice property and it's cheaper than other places. That might be a sign that it is not a real ad. Okay. And another thing to keep in mind too is if the owner is saying that they can't meet you because they're out of the country or out of the province or out of the city, but they still want you to send money. And that again should trigger a thought in your mind saying, this doesn't feel right. And also again, the owner may ask you for a security deposit or a rent payment prior to you signing the lease. That is not okay. And you need to keep that in mind, that that person may be trying to steal money from you. Okay. And also too, if somebody does not want to offer you a lease agreement or a piece of paper that shows what your agreement is for renting the property, that again should trigger an idea in your mind that something is not right with this agreement. And again, if a landlord or potential landlord asks for personal financial information, please do not share any of that information with somebody that you don't trust or that you don't know, to make sure that they are not trying to scam you and take your money away from you. Next slide, please. So that was just a little short summary of the housing options in Victoria. And again, if you do have questions or further questions for myself, you can contact Go Global at uvic.ca. And also remember that we have office hours, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday to Friday. And our phone number, you can reach us anytime during those office hours at 250-721-6361. And our website as well, you can look for all of the information that you have heard about during this presentation today at www.uvic.ca. UVic.com/ICS. And we're welcome to assist you with all of your questions, and please reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help answer your questions and guide you in the right direction while you plan your travel to Victoria. So now we're going to open it up for questions at this point, and Amy is going to take it away from here. So thank you very much, and we look forward to welcoming you to Victoria.
All right, so Sarah, I noticed that a couple people sent you questions, hey?
Yeah, there's just been a few, not too many. Yeah. I was just wondering, are we still recording this part or yeah? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So I think the first two that I have here were from Selma. So she was asking, so she received a study permit letter, I think she meant in her email a few months ago, and she was asking if that was her study permit, but I think she might be referring to the study permit information letter. So Selma, that would not be your study permit. But then she followed up saying, yeah, she doesn't remember applying through any government means. So that's why she's asking. So I think she's just trying to clarify if that was the study permit.
So a Canadian study permit is never given to you automatically. You must go through the official process to apply. The letter you received via email from UVic is called a study permit information letter. That's a letter from us for you to obtain your immigration documents to arrive to Canada. My understanding is if you haven't applied for a study permit by yourself, then that's just a letter to indicate that you have been admitted to UVic. Like I said, that should be one of the travel documents you should bring with you. Double check on the information on the email and also the expiry date of the document. You should be using this letter before it expires.
Amy, I just saw that they followed up and asked, what is the benefit of getting a study permit when you don't necessarily need one? In my case, I will be studying in Canada for less than 6 months and fully vaccinated.
So, like I said earlier in the presentation, you should be exempted from having a study permit if your study program in Canada would be 6 months or less, and as a fully vaccinated person, of course. Now, the benefits are, like I said, it could be more facilitative if you plan to leave Canada and re-enter. Or another thing is for people with a study permit and meeting certain conditions, you're also allowed to work while you study with us.
Perfect. Okay, the next one I have is, what date would you recommend us arriving?
From our point of view, from the International Student Advising Team's point of view, we recommend anything between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So 2 weeks is just enough for you to complete a self-isolation, 14-day self-isolation if required. Like Paula mentioned, your self-isolation requirement in most cases as a fully vaccinated person should be exempted. But if the CBSA officer determines that you still need to enter self-isolation, then it would be a 14-day self-isolation. So we recommend between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. Do you have anything to add, Paula? No? Okay.
Perfect. Okay, the next one I see here is, and I'm not sure if this would go to Maya or Exchange. How do we get access to the student card?
Are they talking about the one card?
I believe so.
Okay. So you do have to get your one card. I believe there's still an option where you can apply for it online and submit a photo, but you will have to pick it up in person at UVic once that has been done. If you forget to do that, you can also just come to UVic and get the photo taken and order it in person, but it's a little bit more streamlined if you do the online one, so I definitely recommend that. In saying that, once you have the card, if you're interested in getting the bus pass, you'll still have to do that separately, do the purchasing of the bus pass separately, and then activate your card to include the bus pass. But you will need the one card first in order to start that process.
Perfect. Thank you. The next one I have is an international driver's license accepted to show with the vaccination card to enter gyms, etc.?
No, you need to show your passport. So you need your BC vaccine card and your passport if you are not Canadian and don't have Canadian issued ID, photo ID.
Perfect. Thanks, Paula. Okay, the next one is, yeah, is it possible to stay in Canada for a little longer after the school period has ended? So for example, to travel around the country, what documents do I need for that? So I guess that would go to Amy Chen.
Good question. If you have a study permit, your study permit will list an expiry date. So again, you will need to leave before your status expires. If you don't have a study permit, so for example, like I mentioned, most of you will need an electronic travel authorization or temporary resident visa to enter Canada, unless you are a citizen of US. For those of you who enter on just the entry document, you have up to 6 months to stay in Canada unless a port of entry officer determines another date for you to leave Canada. So again, just be cautious about the date that you are allowed to stay in Canada until. If you need to stay in Canada beyond the dates that you are allowed, then you should plan to extend your status, or you plan to switch your status in order to stay longer in Canada.
I just want to add on to that you'll also have to look into health insurance. So you'll have the GuardMe health insurance until April 30th. So if you plan on traveling around Canada after that, if you're able to, you'll have to look into another emergency medical insurance.
Perfect. Thank you both. This seems more like a comment, but one of the students is already here in Victoria, which, okay, great. And they said that they only use their international driver's license to get into a bar, for example, and they've been okay. So I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's going to change, and things are going to become stricter toward the end of this month. So that's great if it's working, but just it might be a good idea to have your passport in your back pocket just in case.
Great. I'll just add that I think it's been a bit inconsistent from location to location what people are checking, which is not very helpful for you folks. But as Paula said, it's possible that you'll be asked for your passport, because I think that is officially what the guidelines are, in saying that some places are not requiring that. So it's just a heads up.
Great, thank you. So someone asked, how long do you think we'll have to wait to know if we can have on-campus housing?
That's a really great question. And that is something that you should probably contact resident services directly. Their information hasn't been updated yet as to when they will be letting people know if they have been accepted to on-campus housing. So I would contact them directly, but ballpark, you should know within the next couple of weeks if you have been accepted to on-campus housing.
Perfect. Okay, I think we might have time here. I just see I have 2 more here, and I think we can take those 2. So I guess this is again in terms of timing of arrival. Someone said the spring courses start on January 10th. So is it recommended to arrive directly after Christmas?
It depends. Like I said, we recommend typically 2 weeks to 4 weeks prior to the term starts. If you have obtained housing, if you have found a more permanent home in Victoria, then I think you can probably plan to travel after Christmas. And of course, you are fully vaccinated. But again, if you need more time to settle, you may want to consider coming in earlier.
I will also, again, just add, this isn't really something to bank on, but in the previous term, because the self-isolation was a little bit new for people that were unvaccinated that might not have to self-isolate. If you are fully vaccinated and you are asked to self-isolate for whatever reason, it's possible that you could reach out to your professors and keep up with your courses while in self-isolation. We've noticed that a lot of professors have been quite flexible with that. But it will be your own responsibility to take that on if you are not able to attend the first week of your classes in person. So there could be that option if that is required. So if you do come later than 2 weeks before the classes begin, that could be an option for you. But again, just keeping in mind that it would be your responsibility to make sure that that's all worked out.
And then thanks, Maddie. And then the last question I have here, I think is for Maya. So I'm already covered by a Canadian provincial health plan. Should I get the UVic health plan anyways?
Sorry, already covered by a Canadian provincial health plan. I think maybe just send me an email and we can kind of talk it out a little bit more after this. You can send an email to icsinfo@uvic.ca.
I think that's all the questions.
I just wanted to add a quick note as well that if you are planning to arrive close to the 25th of December, there is a university closure. So UVic is closed from December 25th to January 3rd. So if you visit the campus, then our office will not be open, just so you know.
Great. If we don't have any more questions, I think we can just end the session.
Thank you all for coming. We're hoping that everything goes smoothly and we'll get to see you all in January.